Hi, I'm Susan Eckert, the owner of Long Island Boudoir Photography. Started about 10 years ago, I think, and it's been really fun. I love all my clients who come through my door and have so much fun transforming every single woman who comes through my door. In any case, I'm making this video. I don't do a lot of videos. You won't find a lot of videos of me out there because I'm like a behind the scenes quiet girl. But I really wanted to do this. I've been wanting to do this for a while because I feel like so many women feel they have to be perfect, they have to be flawless before they come in to do a shoot. And there's no such thing. Nobody's ever perfect, as we define it, as most of us define it. And we all have stuff. Skin is skin. It folds, and but when you're in the hands of a good photographer, those things become nothing. They just go away. So I always tell people when they call me and ask about retouching, do I do retouching? I'll say, yeah, I do retouching. I do polishing. That's what I do. My goal is not to change someone from, something to something else. I don't want to fundamentally change people. I want them to see the beauty in what they have. But at the same time, I do think that as a professional, I have an obligation to polish images just a little bit. I mean, even back in the day when people had their portraits painted, it would be a flattering version of them. And back even in the film days, they would dodge and burn on the negatives. So that was like Photoshop before there was such a thing called Photoshop. So I'm not opposed to it. I don't really agree with photographers who say, no, I won't retouch anything at all. I think that me being a mom of three, and I'm approaching the big 5-0 next year. Can't believe it. But in any case, I am. And I feel like, with time, you get a little wiser and you realize, bodies don't always do what we want them to do. So as a photographer, before retouching in Photoshop, there are lots of other things at my disposal. So what is that? Well, there's lighting. Lighting is really important. And you can use it to define the body, structure the body, make it look good before you even have to do Photoshop. So I shoot natural light, but I also shoot with strobe lights. And this particular shot that you see on the screen was shot with strobe lighting. And I'm going to edit it and show you how I got from this to that, which is flawless. This, by the way, is Jamie Lynn, who is one of my spokesmodels. And she gave me permission to do this. Begrudgingly, I think. No, she was really gracious about it. She said, of course, I totally understand what you're doing and what you're saying. So thank you, Jamie Lynn, for allowing me to share this. But in any case, as I was saying, before you even get to Photoshop, there's lighting, there's posing. So it's taking a look at the person before you and saying, how do I make the most of what she's got? Like Jamie Lynn's got great legs. Obviously those had to be a feature. So I'm going to put her in poses that really feature her legs. If somebody else has like a great hourglass figure, I'm going to highlight that. If somebody else has really wonderful back and shoulder blades and collarbones, I'm going to feature that. And I'm going to put them in poses and shoot from angles, which is the third thing, that are flattering, that tell the story of their best assets. And women are usually more inclined to tell me what they don't like about their bodies first. We are so hard on ourselves, and I get it. I'm the same. But at the same time, I was, at 5 years old, I was told, you have a gift. You see the beauty in everyone. And it's only funny now that in my later years that I'm doing something that enables me to work from that strength, which is seeing people's beauty. Because I used to walk up to people and be like, you have a great jawline. And they would look at me like I was from Mars. But maybe I am from Mars, I don't know. But anyway, the point is there's a whole lot that happens before Photoshop. There's good posing, good angles, knowing your lighting, and then as a last resort, there's Photoshop. And I will always tell my client, listen, I'm going to put you into poses sometimes that don't feel natural, but it's designed to create beautiful lines in the body. And sometimes there are things that happen that I call hazards of the pose. And in this particular image, you see the example of what I'm talking about here. Like I had her get into this pose, pop her hip, which is going to create little wibbles on the side of the body, little lines. Bras, stockings, underwear, they all pull us in and create little bulgy areas. That's because of the lingerie. It's not because you're fat. It's not because you're faulty. It's skin. It moves. So as a photographer, I feel like it's my job to polish that, to correct for the hazards of the pose, to correct for the lingerie, the sometimes unflattering little roundness that they create when they pull us in. So I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. And most of all, I really wanted people to understand that, sometimes people ask me, can you just not retouch and just like give me the images on a disc? So, you can charge me less. And it's like, no, I'm a professional. I have to deliver a finished product. You don't ask a clothing designer to stitch a dress together. Don't worry about the lining. Don't worry about finishing it off. It's fine. Just give it to me for a cheaper price, so the outer shell is fine. No, nobody asks a clothes designer to do that. As a photographer, I don't really like being asked that either, because that's not my finished work. I take pride in my work, and I want to deliver a beautiful finished image that looks like this, not like the straight out of camera version, even though it's gorgeous. That's not my finished work. So half of the work happens on, not even half, the bulk of the work, to start the image happens on the shoot day. That's only a couple hours. But then on the back end, the work that it takes to edit an image and polish it and make it beautiful and flawless and gorgeous and pop, that's where the bulk of the work comes in. And this is why we can't just shoot an image, turn it around in 2 days, and it's just not the way I work anyway. So I wanted to make this video to show people, just the level of detail that goes into creating a finished image. So that way, when I get these questions, I could just direct people to the link. But anyway, without further ado, let's get going. So I'm going to take this image, re-edit it. I'm going to edit it from scratch again and show you where I start, what I'm looking at while I'm editing, why I'm doing certain things I'm doing, so that you can see how I get to the finished product, okay? All right, so first thing I do is I create a duplicate of the layer so that I can toggle back and forth and make sure that I'm not going a little too far, okay? And the very first thing that I do is apply this software called Portraiture. It can be a little bit aggressive, a little bit too strong. What I do is I select the bulk of the skin tones here, just like that. And then I allow it to just soften the skin a little bit. All by itself, it's almost too much. So as a rule, I generally scale it back because I don't want her to look like a mannequin. Okay? Then I will create an edit layer. Okay? And sometimes I start top to bottom, sometimes I start bottom to top. So today I'm going to start bottom to top. And what I'm looking for is, where does my eye go? Is that the central theme of the image? What am I looking at? What pops out for me? Like right here, her vein pops out sort of. So she's vascular, I'm vascular. I never really loved my veins popping out. So I'm going to guess that she doesn't either because I've shot her 3 times. Or more actually at this point. So what I want to do is remove anything that is going to draw my eye unnecessarily. Anything that a woman could potentially say, well, that's unflattering, I don't like that. And as I review images with my clients, which I always do that unedited, and sometimes that intimidates people, but on the shoot day, I show pictures. I always show pictures in camera so that they see that they're in good hands and they're fine and I'm getting flattering images, and if we need to tweak anything, we'll tweak it in a moment. But they're already excited to see the pictures even though they're unedited when they come for the review session because they've seen what I've been capturing. But when I'm editing, I'm taking into account what I've heard them say about what they love about their figures, their bodies, what they don't necessarily. And I really want to take a gentle, gentle hand in the editing process so that it's still fundamentally them, just a cleaned up, flattering, softer version. Um, so what I'm doing here is I'm looking for, where are there irregularities in skin texture, in skin colors, in shadows, because shadows play a big role in telling us how something is shaped, where there are indents, where there is roundness, and I want to use the tools that I have at my disposal to create a very flattering take on the body. And sometimes when light falls on the body, what it does is it creates a little bit of a, it highlights especially strobe lighting, it highlights some of the ridges, some of the texture, and you have to go in and correct for that. So I don't want to change who Jamie Lynn is. She's beautiful. I just want to come in here and delete some areas of contrast that might draw the eye unnecessarily and just add, a smooth, sleek look to her, because she is smooth and sleek. But I just want to make sure I take away anything that could potentially be a distraction. And all of us have different textures on a limb, different colors on a limb, and I want to do this in a way that doesn't scream, I've been retouched, so that it doesn't take away from the person's natural beauty. So even though the controversy over retouching is so heated, I don't mind doing it, because I'm not doing it to change people, Like, I've had requests, I'm a size 12, can you make me look like a size 2? And that's like, just, I won't do that, because I want to honor who you are. I want to make you look beautiful given what you have. And I want to shine a spotlight on your best assets. I don't want to make you something that you're not. That's not empowering. I don't want you to feel you need to look like somebody else in order to appreciate your beauty. Instead, I want to show you your beauty, what you have that is fabulous about you, and highlight that. Just really shine a spotlight on it. And I got to tell you, doing this 10 years now, I have met women, all ages, in their 50s, in their 40s, in their 60s, who discounted or didn't really understand their beauty, where it lied. And there was one woman, I'll never forget, she saw her images and she said, I didn't know I had those legs. Those are beautiful legs. I said, yes, they are. They're 3/4 of your body and they're amazing. And she didn't know that. She just never knew that she had these gorgeous legs, and probably didn't dress for it either, and had been so hard on herself. And so many of my clients are hard on themselves. They focus on the things that they don't love, and not on the things that are really fabulous about them. So I help women see those things so they'll stop being so hard on themselves. It's like, this is why I started doing this. I don't want women to be hard on themselves. I'm so hard on myself. I always was, my whole life. And I don't want other women to feel that way. So I have a gift. I can see the beauty in everyone, literally everyone. I shoot every shape, size, color, age, doesn't matter. I'm turning 50. There's beauty in that. And I shoot women in their 30s, in their 20s, in their 60s. The oldest client I ever shot was 82. She was a pip. Oh my God, she was so much fun. So Boudoir is really for anyone. And I do shoot glamour and more conservative type shots too, with gowns and things. I have a lot of gowns in the studio. I have about 100 now. But it's, the idea is to shoot you in a way that speaks to who you are, not who I am, who you are. And I disagree with photographers a lot on that part, because I think that I can express myself as much as I want in my personal work, but when I'm shooting a client, I want to capture her. How does she see herself? Does she like soft light? Is she casual? Is she like the girl next door? Or is she like an agent provocateur model? You know? Everybody's different. So that's why I have this arsenal of lighting that is really quite broad. I can shoot natural light. My studio has a beautiful daylight room, I call it. And but I also shoot with strobes, and I love shooting with strobes. And this particular shot was shot with strobes. To me, it just, sculpts the body, defines the body. It adds a little bit of drama. It's really quite beautiful for everyone. Doesn't matter who it is. Just different forms of lighting. Like, I've got all sorts of different lighting modifiers in my studio, and I love using all of it. I use everything. I have so much that I use because, depending on the look we're going for, it requires different things. So, Anyway, as you see what I'm doing here, I'm simply just blending in. Like, if the area is darker, I'm going to lighten it up so it blends in with the rest of it. But it's still skin. Do you see? Still skin. It's not a mannequin. She's not a mannequin. She's a beautiful woman, and we definitely want to maintain her natural beauty. So I think I was busy talking with my retouching here. I probably went a little far here. And sometimes I pull it back. So I can pull it back just a titch by adding a mask and then painting out whatever. And that's the key. When you edit, you really want to go back and forth, toggle. Make sure you're not going too far. If you go too far, pull it back. Pull it back. Back in the day, they used to put Vaseline on their lenses for film cameras. Must have been so messy cleaning up after a shoot with that, but thank God we don't have to do that now. I love photography so much. I wish I'd found it when I was like in my 20s. I mean, I was always a hobbyist with it, but never really considered it as a possibility for a career. Like, my parents were so conservative. They were like, oh yeah, you gotta be a doctor or a lawyer. So I got my master's in psychology, and I loved that for a while, but I didn't like doing it in the corporate sector. So the best decision I ever made was leaving a soul-sucking career to do something that gave me purpose, that lifted me up, that made me feel like every day I was doing something meaningful, something that was helping other people, something that was adding value in people's lives. And when you read my Google reviews, you say, like, this is not just about a pretty picture for my clients. This is about meaning, something meaningful. It's about self-identity, self-esteem, and making peace with our bodies, because we're all so hard on ourselves as women. So I would like to change that a little bit. And let me just pause this because one of my dogs is getting into trouble. I can hear it. Okay, I'm back. So let me put this down. Okay. So here again on the tummy, what I'm doing is I'm just blending in the shadows and the light. So we don't see texture as much. We just, see the smooth skin that she's got. So it's doing it with a gentle hand so that you don't create a nightmare out of this. I think in Boudoir it's very easy for women, for photographers to go way, way, way overboard. So here, all right. So now I like to go back and just check, you know, let's look at the legs. So you can see the skin, it's blending in a little bit more, looks a little bit smoother. Still looks like skin. I could probably go in here with a lightened version. Yeah, that's good. Perfect. Okay. So I'm basically looking for, where does my eye go? Where does my eye go? Okay. This looks pretty good. Okay. So here, this is something that women freak out about all the time. They're like, oh my God, I don't want my side rolls to, show up. And here's the deal. I put her in this position that is really, this is a tough pose to pull off. It's very archy. You're leaning, you're popping a hip, you're lifting a hip. So between the underwear, pulling her in and creating these areas that pop out, and the pose, having her lift her hip, we've got some action going on here in the skin. And this is perfectly natural. Skin folds. But I will tell women all the time, I would rather have this shape here than have a plank because somebody was afraid of getting a sideline. This is easy to fix. I'd rather do that and have this beautiful S-curve than, have just a straight sideline. Unless, of course, that's just how the person is shaped. But in this case, that's not how she's shaped. So what I'm going to do is go into a liquefy tool, which is very controversial as well in the industry, and just pop it in just a little bit. I'm fixing what the lingerie created here. That's all. I'm pulling out where the lingerie is pulling in. Smoothing all this from her hip pop. And where the underwear is pulling her in, I'm pulling it back out, smoothing it out a little bit. And just softening this curve here. Okay? Because this is not fundamentally changing who she is. Jamie Lynn is gorgeous. She's these beautiful curves. And I am just fixing what the pose and the lingerie have created here. Okay? Now, my work is not done yet. Okay? So you see already there, smoothing the curves. Now what I have to contend with is the lines and the shadows, right? So what I'm going to do is bring over this patch tool and see if I can get rid of this line here. Yep, that did the trick. Good. So now what I'm noticing is there's a little bit of, I'm still on lighten, let me go back up here. Darken, very nice. Get rid of that little line there. And let me go. Okay. So now, there's a little bit of work to do here. So, just gonna go clean these up here. And make sure these lines and this whole side area is just a little more smoothed out for her. Nobody likes side lines. They're natural, but nobody likes them. So I certainly do not let them hang around in pictures when I give them to clients, And I think this is the difference. When you have a shoot and burn photographer, just, I'll shoot you, I'll burn everything to a disc, you can deal with it yourself. That's not a professional. That's not a finished job. That's not a studio photographer. I don't really know of any studio that does that. Meanwhile, my clients ask for it. Not my clients, prospects ask for it. And I always say no. That's just not who I am. It's not the service I'm delivering. So I really don't want to have my work out there in an unfinished state. Okay, so a little better. Still some work to do here. So one of the things I want to do is just kind of erase anything that might have gotten here on the bra. Good. And then I'm going to create a new layer just to get a clean start here. I'm going to just take out the skin behind the bra. Let me go this way. See? And then take this a little bit here. Okay. Now I'm not too concerned with like having a lot of skin texture back here because this is the back. This is like underneath her bra and her back, so not a big deal. I'm just gonna. This is not a focal point anyway back here. Okay. So just like that. Perfect. Good. Excellent. And then I'll compare, with how it was before. Big improvement, nice and sleek. I'm still going to tone down some of the color difference back here because it will draw my eye if the colors are radically different. Okay, the little line is fine. Okay. Good, I like that. Now this brightness just underneath the bra is also drawing my eye. So if I set it on dark and it won't stand out as much. That's better. She'll like that much better. Okay. So I'm going to go here. This is like a little mole or something, but I'm going to take it out because it's an area of contrast and it draws my eye. Okay, just like that. Nice. Much nicer. Good. Okay. I think she'll be happy with that. Excellent. Okay. So when I see things, if something catches my eye, even if it's not in an area that I'm working on, I'm going to take it out because I might miss it later, and I don't want to do that. So, okay. Hands, I always soften just a little. I mean, hands are hands. We have veins in our hands. Some of us have more than others, but if I can just smooth it just a titch. Let me just maybe, let me just do this. Take some of the contrast out so the veins aren't so poppy. That will be good. Probably make the client happy too. Let me do this because this is not getting me the results I want. Okay. There's like a million ways to skin a cat in Photoshop, by the way. And there's also a whole nother level of retouching. When you edit for magazines, everything is super, super flawless. That's like days of editing, if not weeks of editing. I've seen it take weeks of editing. But you can't do that for consumer portraiture because you'd be in the negative. You wouldn't even be making $2 an hour. So clearly most studio owners can't afford to do that. And most of your clients aren't looking for that either, so it's fine. But delivering a nice, polished, beautiful image where strengths are played up, perceived flaws are played down, makes everybody super happy. Here, just like that. Good. So now the veins aren't drawing my eye anymore. See? Nice. Okay. Now, Jamie Lynn has freckles. I love the freckles. They're beautiful. I love freckles. My grandmother was European and had all these freckles, red hair and freckles. And I used to sit on her lap and count them. and lose track and start all over again. And it was like one of my favorite things to do when I was a kid. So I always tell women, you know, if they're like, get rid of my freckles, I'm like, no way, you shouldn't get rid of freckles, look how beautiful they are. And then they'll say, okay. You know, if it's a defining mark, if it's a defining feature, why lose it? Then you lose the beauty of you, you know? So that's my specialty. I love helping women see what's beautiful about them, what's unique about them, and celebrate it. Nobody wants to be a robot. Nobody wants to be exactly like some other person. We're all different. So, and that should be good. That should be a good thing, not a bad thing. So here, I'm just going to get rid of this little tiny line I see here. Just because it's an area of contrast, yet again, that draws my eye. So I don't want that. I think I'm going to put this on normal, actually. Okay. Okay, there we go. So we got rid of that little line back there. And I'm not going to mess with her arm too much. It's pretty perfect. She works out. She's in good shape. You know, I'm just going to take out anything that just really catches my eye that I feel is a distraction. Okay. So the arm looks good. Okay. I'll probably play with the shadows and light a little bit in the one of the last stages, which is dodging and burning, but for now I'm just going to keep it there, right where it is. So one of the things that's really drawing my eye here is this shadow on her boob. So I'm just going to go over that so there's no area of contrast here. Okay. This light suntan line, I don't mind. I'm going to leave it there. Most of us have little suntan lines there. Not a problem, unless somebody tells me I don't like that, can you get rid of it? I'll leave it. Not a big deal. We all have a little bit of suntans. Dark suntan lines I will take out to the best that I can. Like I tell clients, just try and avoid them in the first place, because the more you have to mess with skin like that, the more you're gonna like run the risk that you have to ruin the skin texture, which is never a good thing. So I guide my clients in avoiding that, so we don't end up with a bad situation that I can't fix, or that will just make the picture not as beautiful as it could have been otherwise. Okay. And sometimes when I edit, I'm going with an eye towards, I'm going to take it a little bit beyond where I want it, but then I'm going to come back and erase a little bit. Like you see, she's got this little beauty mark in here. So in what I did, I replicated it a couple times. But because it's an area of contrast where we don't necessarily want the eye going, I'm going to just delete it. Ugh. Okay. Alright. I feel like it's still a little bit. Okay, that's gone. It's just, you know, once you start looking at shadows and toning, you realize, wow, a little area like this can take so long to work on. It's a little tiny area, you know. And then if I want to take it back just a little, I will mask it and erase just a titch. Let's see. I think it's okay. That's all right. Right there. Okay. All right. Nobody's looking at armpits. Okay. So here we go. Now, clearly this arm is really much brighter than this one, so I'm going to have to do something at that point, at some point about that. But for right now, I'm looking at texture and distraction. So this vein is pretty prominent. So I'm going to Let me just delete it for a second. Hold on. I'm going to get rid of it right here. Oh, I'm not even using the right tool. Please excuse me. Okay. Yeah, I want to patch it, see how that works. Just move it here. Okay. Now I added that second mole, so I'm going to get rid of it. Okay. There we go. Good. So, see the difference? Much better. Smoother, softer. Okay. So I'm at 200% by the way. So like I will zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out. I want to make sure I'm not taking it too far, but I also want to make sure I'm seeing potential distractions so that when the image is printed, it's, you don't, your eye doesn't keep going to something that should have been taken out or corrected. Yeah. I think, you know, throughout history, women, our shapes, our figures have been seen as, you know, inspirations for art. That hasn't changed. It's never going to change. So, to me, this work is very artistic, and it's you know, it celebrates the female form if it's done with grace, and that's the key, because it can be done not with grace. There's examples of that all over the place. You know, it's funny because sometimes I'll cringe, you know, when I tell people I'm a boudoir photographer and they make this face. I know what they're thinking. They're thinking of the other images that I've seen out there, not my work. They'll see my work and they'll be like, oh my God, that's so tasteful and beautiful. And then they'll want to do it. But I have to do a lot of education because most people think, you know. I actually once saw a studio space, a possible studio space I was looking at, and the landlord said, what do you shoot? And I said, boudoir. He's like, oh, we can't have that here. I said, what do you mean? And he I don't know what he thought it was, but I busted out my iPad, showed him samples of my work, and needless to say, I get home and there's a lease waiting for me in my email. Apparently, he misunderstood what boudoir was all about. So, but I like doing that. I like educating people because, you know, some form of this has existed throughout time, really. I mean, you go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, for God's sake, and like everything is naked. The statues are naked, the women in the paintings are naked, the royalty is naked. We have such an issue with nudity still in our culture, which I find so strange. And I'm not even, well, I do shoot nudes, but you know, boudoir isn't necessarily nudes. I just don't understand the big deal about it. We're born naked, for God's sake. So, okay. So here I'm just, you know, cleaning up the shadows a little bit so the skin is nice and even. This is catching my eye, so I'm just going to get it right now. Okay. I will correct the color difference later. All right, I'm now going to go onto her neck. Really not a lot to do here because it's in shadow. I'm just going to even this out just a little bit. Okay. Good. That's good. Don't really need to do much here. Okay. That's pretty. Excellent. All right, so now the last thing is her face. Now we are zoomed in at 200%, so this is, you know, looks... All right, one of the things I like to do is brighten the highlights in the eyes. Bring up the color in the eyes here, lightening it up a titch. Okay, sometimes you can go overboard with this, so I like to check, make sure I didn't go too far. Okay. And then, with her face, Jamie Lynn has good skin, but the way the light falls sometimes, she's got high cheekbones. Ooh, I'm way too high, hold on. She's got high cheekbones, so sometimes what happens is like a shadow will cast underneath with the strobe lighting set high. So I like to go in and correct for that. Okay, so because she's got little specular lights here, I'm going to retouch and just get rid of these little tiny spots that I've replicated in my lightening process. And if I see any texture that's drawing my eye, I will smooth that. Now, stray hairs also make me crazy. You know, it's not possible to see all of these little fine hairs when you're shooting. And Jamie has fine hair, so these little stray hairs will pop up. But then in editing, I will burn them back down so they kind of blend in with everything else. There, good. Okay. So, excellent. Let me just set this on lighten real quick. Okay. Okay. Later on, we're going to do a dodging and burning, which is going to darken down the shadows and lighten up the highlights so that there's more definition and sculpting happening. Okay, that's fine. And she has freckles, which I love again, so there's some on her face here. I'm not going to mess with that too much because they're pretty. And again, there's another hair here, which is distracting me. And I know it's like so close and you probably would barely notice it in the print, but I'd rather get rid of it. And here's the deal, here's why. I never know what the end result is going to be in terms of, is this client going to want a large wall print? If this client's going to want a large wall print, all of these little blemishes are going to be visible if I just leave them there. You know? So I would rather take them out so that she can do whatever she wants to do with these images. If she wants them printed large, I once did a wall piece for a client in the city who had a penthouse apartment, and we did a 4-foot by 8-foot piece printed on metal. It was stunning. You know, I just did a 5-foot piece for a pregnant client. It was this beautiful silhouette nude, her laying on the floor, black and white, and she wanted it printed at, 60, 65 inches over her bed. So, if you leave little blemishes and things on an image and it's printed at that size, you are going to see those things. And I believe that when you hire a professional, your images should be polished and those things should be taken care of. Okay? So now, Jamie Lynn doesn't really have wrinkles, but I get a lot of questions about wrinkles, like can you take them out? And what I say is sure, but I can soften them, because if you are in your 50s, for example, and you've got, some amount of wrinkles, I can soften them so that they're not the central focus, but I can do that with lighting too. And then I can do them in Photoshop as well, but I don't want to completely eliminate them, because that's like turning the clock back 10 years, which I know women will argue with me, well, I don't mind that. And sure, but I don't want people looking at your images and saying, oh, who is that? Or is that you know, when do you have that done? Like 10 years ago? That's not very empowering, I don't think, to women. So, you know, I tell them to really think about it, and I advise them to take a gentle hand with that. So I will soften them so that they're not really super, super noticeable, but, you know, maybe I'll leave a hint that they're there because they are there. Somebody's standing next to you looking at you, and they're looking at your picture, and you have this flawless baby's forehead. They're going to just wonder what else was edited, right? I mean, I don't want to call attention to the editing ever, but at the same time, I do want my clients to be happy. So it's all a balance is my point, which I'm making in a very long-winded way. But this is the first video I'm doing like this, so I'm just sort of stream of consciousness right now. Okay. All right, this is good. Okay. You see? The forehead looks nice and smooth, still like skin, still like a forehead. And when I come in later with the dodging and burning, I'm going to play with the shape a little bit and the structure and the shadows, just a titch. Yeah, okay, right there is nice. Okay, so now I'm going to work around the mouth area here. There's some texture here, and the way the shadows fell, you can see the shape and texture of the area around her mouth. So I want to just soften that up a titch. That's nice. Okay. Good. And so, you know, I never want a client to look at an image and be like, oh yeah, it only looks beautiful because you edited it. No, I don't want that. I want clients to feel beautiful from the minute they see their pictures, unedited. And knock on wood, for the most part, I'm very successful in that. You know, of course clients will say, well, can you do a little bit of this and a little bit of that? And that's natural. I mean, Lord knows. I'm planning on doing a shoot at some point later this year myself, and in my head I have a laundry list of things that I know I would ask the photographer to take care of for me. It's like funny because there's a whole community of boudoir photographers, and when I speak to some of them about me doing a shoot and I issue forth all the same excuses or same reasons why not now, they laugh at me and they say, Sue, you sound like your clients. I'm like, I know, but I'm going to do it this year because hubby's been asking for a long time, and it's just a personal challenge. I'm like a very shy person. I don't like to be on camera. I don't like to be in front of it on video. I don't like, you know, it's just tough for me. So, but at the same time, I would love to see how someone else sees me, how they define my beauty in a way. What do they see? And knowing what I know about how much you can do with light and angles, I'm going to entrust that I can find a photographer who will adequately capture me. I'm very picky though, needless to say. That's what happens when you're a photographer. I don't want to end up in a situation where I'm telling them what to do. I just want to be able to give myself over and say, okay, I trust you, I trust your eye, I trust your work. And if you hear jingling, that's my little dog, apologize for that if you hear it. In any case. All right, so here with the hair, I just like to soften the flyaways. You see? It's funny because at first when you look at it, you don't realize how distracting it is until you start taking it out. And then you go, oh my God, that was like a hot mess. See? Soften the mouth area. Looks great. Okay. So once I'm pretty confident that I've taken care of the big issues with the body, first of all, let me save where I am. That's really key. So key. How many times have I not saved and then only to have something crash and then just have to start all over again? In fact, this is the second video I'm making because the first one, I deleted it without saving it. So that's why I have the finished edit available. But in any case, this is good because I could show you the before and after and then work you through how I got there. So I am pretty much done with the textural elements on her. So what I'm going to do now is take care of the set, you know, and a lot of times when I shoot, I'm aware that the background is going to need some work as well. So for example, with this seamless background, it's new, but sometimes they bubble up a little bit, and then the way the light falls on it isn't even, and then you're like, oh, I gotta fix that now because it's distracting, you know. So I'll go over it and smooth it out so that doesn't become yet another area of contrast that draws the eye. Okay, so that alone is enough to take care of that, but I'm going to get a little closer here. So here I have to get a little closer to the body because there's this ding, a little bend in the paper here that's distracting me. Okay. Alright, that's fine. Doesn't have to be perfect. I just don't want it to be a distraction. And if I get too close to her, which I think I just did, yes, I'm going to just go erase it. Make this one a bit bigger. Right there. Okay, good. Perfect. Okay, so now the backdrop is not bothering me. That looks good. Obviously, this exit sign here has to go. So I am going to get rid of that. But, oops, wrong place. I do like, I shot this from an angle, and I do like that I see the edge of the seamless paper. So I am going to leave it that way. To me, it looks kind of mysterious. It's like, where is she? What's behind her? So I'm going to leave that there the way it is. I'm just going to soft spot here. Okay. And then I'm going to take care of the seamless up here because, you know, it started off fresh. And then as you're walking on it and changing poses, it gets a little worked over. So I'm going to go back here, blend the light and shadows a little bit here, just so this doesn't draw the eye. Nice. Good. Okay, there's little dots. I don't know what that is. Okay, and then smooth that. And like I said, there are a million ways to do all of these things. I'm just doing it this way this time. Because I myself work in different ways. Let's see. Just a little thing here. Okay, there's nothing worse than, like, you know, thinking an image is done and then you print it and then you go, oh crap, I didn't see that lint ball. Or that sequin that dropped on the floor, or whatever it is, you know. Okay, and then I'm just gonna, this is a concrete floor back here, just gonna blend it a little bit so that doesn't draw attention back there. Okay, and these little details are really important. They really are. I would never give someone like unedited image files. That's just not professional, I don't think. And anyway, so for the most part, this image, we've taken it from, you know, unfinished, raw, straight out of camera. We've cleaned it up some here. So now we're going to have to take care of brightness. You know, like this arm is brighter than her face, which is a problem. You know, this one arm looks really tan, this one looks bright, the hip here is bright, you know, her face is somewhere in the middle. So we've got to work on that, and then we have to work on color as well. So I'm going to save one more time. Okay. And then I'm going to create a new layer to work on. Okay. Okay. And now I'm going to start adjusting what I see as discrepancies in brightness a little bit. So I'm going to paint on the effect I just did, which is to darken down the brightness. Okay. So that looks better. That looks better. And maybe I'm just gonna just a little bit lighten up this arm a titch. Okay, looks a little more balanced. Okay, and then I'm going to bring a little light into her face as well. Okay. Right there should be okay. I'm going to tone this down just a little bit. Alrighty. See? And I've balanced that out a little bit more now. Looks better. That looks better. I think I'm just going to bring the brightness in her face up just a little bit more. Yeah, that looks good. Now, Jamie Lynn is somebody I shot years ago in my studio, one of my earlier studios, and we just stayed in touch. She was such a lovely she is such a lovely person, and when I was looking for spokesmodels for this year, 2018, she came to mind, and she was very excited about doing it. So I'm very happy that she did, because she's such a joy to shoot, and she's very versatile. Okay, so now that the set is cleaned up, her skin is cleaned up, I'm going to just do a couple more tweaks to curves here. I'm going to bring that liquify tool back in, but geez, these are minor tweaks. Again, these are corrections to what I call hazards of the pose. So obviously when you lay your leg down on the other one, it's gonna like spread your muscle out a little bit. So I'm just correcting for that. muscle just a touch. Okay, so that's minor shift, but nonetheless, it makes her leg look a little sleeker. I think that's about it. I'm not liquefying. I know what I want to liquefy. I'm going to give her hair, in the original edit, I had given her hair a little bit of a pump in liquefy. Sometimes I do that. It's kind of fun, and it adds just a little bit of interest to the image. So what I'm looking to do here is just add a little more body to the hair. Spread it out a little bit. Yeah. Maybe that's not the right. Let's see. You know. It's so funny. The first time I did this, it was like a no-brainer. It's always how it works. One time you do it, it's flawless. The next time you're like, why didn't I do the last time? Just to have a little more shape going here. Leave that the way it is. Let me just see what I did here. Yeah, see? Adds a little more poof, a little more va-va-voom to everything. Okay. So now that this image is getting really close to being there. All right, so I'm going to save it one more time. And then I'm going to do some dodging and burning. So I'm pretty comfortable with how I have my edits so far. So I am going to flatten the image. And I'm going to, I created an action for dodging and burning. I'm going to run that and paint in the effects where I want them. So the idea of dodging and burning is just to darken up the shadows. Oops, I'm on the wrong color. Darken up the shadows a little bit so you can structure. Oh, I'm dodging. Oh my lord. Let me delete that because I was doing the wrong thing. You don't want to lighten the shadows. You want to darken the shadows. Okay. Yes. Here we go. So darken the shadows a little bit. Not too much. That's too much. Okay. I should probably go lower. Let me go lower. Okay. Just going to darken a little bit in there. Darken a little bit there. And following where the shadows already are is smart because, you know, that's where the shadows are for a reason, you know. And then dodging to bring out the highlights. Right? So this actually creates a really nice effect. See? Her leg looks a little more sculpted, a little more sleek. See? Not so flat. And I'm gonna dodge here a little bit, there a little bit. Bring in the shadows here a little bit. So I'm just gonna blend this in a little bit. I don't right there. Okay. Open that up. There we go. See. Now you can see her bicep. Just gonna do a little shift here. feels better. And voila. All right, good. So her arm looks nice and toned, nice and structured. I'm just gonna go over here a little bit. Just darken this down here a little bit. Make her muscle pop a little bit. She works hard for that. She looks great. Okay, and then in the face, I'm going to sculpt her cheekbones a little bit. She's got these great cheekbones. So we definitely want to see them. Okay, and then I'm going to dodge area under her eyes. And nose. Inner lip. And then burn the outside. Now, here's the deal. Even though this is taking a while, which I wanted you to get the idea, I'm still doing a kind of fast job here, just to show you so I don't bore you to tears. I am just trying to get you to see the level of detail at which we edit. And I'm doing it faster than I would because I want to give you the sense but not drive you nuts. So do you see the way the lips and the face is a little bit more structured here? And then we can also dodge and burn with the hair. So everybody loves, everybody pays good money for their highlights. So we want to make sure we bring out the highlights in the hair and you make them stand out from the rest. And then you're going to burn spaces in between the curls. And we can be really, really meticulous about this. But for the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to do real quick and dirty here. And so here, I'm going to highlight that one back area there. That's pretty. Okay, so this is the hair, dodged and burned. Gives it a nice little pop. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so now I just want to make sure my white points, my black points are good. That's nice. And I would pretty much say the basic stuff here is done now. So now what I do is, one of the last steps is play with color. And I learned just a couple years ago that I have a color deficiency, which is why color is so challenging for me. But despite that, I am learning ways to overcome it. Skin like hers especially has like a nice, some golden tones, some reds. you know, every image we edit, there's a choice. Do we want the image to feel cold, or do we want it to feel warm? And, you know, I think her honey color hair, her nice warm toned skin, I'm going to go this direction because I think this looks more appropriate for her. So I'm going to go with a warmer look for this image, and maybe I'm even going to add a little bit more. And there are times I go the opposite way. There are times that this might be a little too much. There are times when I want a cold feeling. I want like a sleek, edgy, city, modern girl kind of direction. I like this. This looks really good. So let's compare it with the one I had originally edited. Yeah, very close. You can see I liquefied the hair a little bit differently. But essentially, same thing here. So I like this. This looks great. I might give it a little bit more of an S-curve. And the brightness and the darkness. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. She pops a little bit more for me here. This is pretty. So, you know, each image, you've got to edit each image so the features that you really want to pop will pop. I love her expression here. She just looks so beautiful. Right there. That's the image. Okay. So then I'm just going to create a layer that I can sharpen certain features. Okay, let's go here. And then I'm going to put a mask and just paint it in where I want it. So one of the things I want to highlight is this buckle and the leather she's got. Oh, let's go back here. Like it's not doing anything. Okay. There. Gonna bring up the detail in the jacket. All the pleats. It's a pretty jacket. I'm gonna shine her ring up a little here too. Very pretty. And then the lace. That's beautiful texture. And then I'm going to bring up the detail in her hair as well. I'll go over her eyes a little bit, over her mouth, right here. Okay, see how that gives just a little bit of pop there. And then as a last step, I'm going to add a little bit of noise. And we have a final image. Okay, I'm going to save it. It's final too, I forgot. Okay, so now if we go in tight, we can see it looks like skin. She still looks like a person, a human being. Flawless, beautiful. See? And this is how we edit. This is how I edit anyway. So if you have any questions, email me. I look forward to working with you if I haven't, and if I have, I look forward to working with you again. Have a wonderful day, and if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Bye.